So I had this red metal folding chair that was all scratched up, and it really wasn't very pretty at all, and it was just in my back room here in the shop. And since I needed something to paint, I thought, well, what can I do with this chair? Lots, it seems. So first thing I did was give it a coat, 2 coats actually, of the little black dress paint from Debbie's Design Diary. And then after all the ideas I had, I thought, why don't I just foil this with Artistic Painting Studio foils. This was a foil that I had left over that I had used before, but I thought I could still use it. So I did a layer of the foil glue, also from Artistic Painting Studio. I let this sit for a couple of hours. It needs to get tacky in order for it to work. If you put the foil down right away, it might not work like you want it to. So I grabbed my foil that was cut up and I just put it right over where the glue was, and I spread that foil glue all over the seat of the chair and also on the sides. The next thing you want to do is sort of just get out these air bubbles. Some people use a little scrubbing brush. I have one, cannot find it, surprise, surprise. So after I laid the foil down, I just kind of patted out the bubbles, and I also used a brayer to smooth out the foil. So because I've used this foil on other things, you can see that you don't see the complete pattern, but that's okay because there's still plenty of the pattern left, and it's just going to give it a more authentic look, I feel, than if you had used foil that was, the whole pattern was completely there. So yeah, this was really different. I wasn't sure if this was going to work because I never really did anything to a folding chair before, but this turned out really, really well, and I was really surprised. So after getting out the air bubbles and getting it, because if you leave those air bubbles there, that pattern isn't going to adhere to the chair. So once I got that done, then you can pull up the foil, and that's where the fun begins. So check this out. This is so satisfying when you pull the foil back, and voila, there it is, that cheetah foil print on the chair. This is just the best part. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to seal this for a protective layer, and we're going to use Big Top, excuse me, from Debbie's Design Diary as well. And this is a sealant, and the reason why we want to seal this is not just to protect it, but also because it's still tacky from the glue, and this will make the tackiness go away. Then I got some gold paint, and I painted the bottom of the legs, as you saw, and then this part of the chair with the gold, the backrest. There you go. The next thing I wanted to do was add something extra to the chair. This just seemed a little plain to me. That's just me. For some people, that might be enough. I wanted to add more to the chair, so I got some decoupage paper. This paper has prints of roses and things like that. And so this is what I'm going to put on top of the foil on the seat part of the chair, which the foil will use as the background. It'll contrast the paper. I think it's going to look really pretty. So for this, we're going to use Mod Podge to put this paper on the chair. So we're going to put the Mod Podge on the seat of the chair. Then we're going to put the paper, which I cut. You want to cut the edges out because you always, well, for me, I like to make it look like it's not just like just stuck paper on something. So If I were to put it on the way that it is, it would just be square paper, and there is some writing on the paper from the company that this paper came from. So I just cut it not in perfect shape, the edges, and I'm going to put the Mod Podge on the chair, on the seat of the chair, and then I'm going to put the paper on top, and then I am going to seal it again with the Mod Podge. Okay, so now that we have sealed the paper on there and it's nice and dry, I want to add some paint to some parts of the edges of the paper on this chair. The reason for that is, like I said before, I never wanted to look like I just stuck paper onto anything. So I'm lightly tapping some black to the edges of the paper to kind of blend it in with the chair that's already black underneath of it all. And there's black on the paper, so I think it's going to tie it all in. On top of that, I'm also going to add some gold, which is on the backrest of the chair and also on the cheetah foil. So this is going to, I feel, tie it all in together. Also, don't be afraid to add some paint onto the paper itself in the middle. I did that because, again, I don't want it to look like it's just on the edges. It also has to be in some parts of the middle of the paper as well. So that's what I did to make this paper look like it sort of belongs here. So one last step is the backrest needed something because it's a little too plain. Well, not one last step, we're almost to the last step. So I grabbed some stencils here, this Harlequin, I think this is called, and I am going to add some black to the gold that's on the backrest of this chair. I think it's gonna make it pop a little bit, and I like the way it looks actually. The reason I started on the opposite side of the stencil is because when I first started the stencil, when I pulled it up, it was still wet, and I didn't want to place the stencil over what I had just stenciled that was still wet, if that makes any sense. So it dried by the time I got back to that side. So this worked out for me. So I felt like I needed still one more thing to make this pop, and I was going to use Would You Bend, but I decided when you close the chair it would maybe break. So I decided that I would use the stencil. I wasn't going to use the whole stencil, just the crown and the bee or the dragonfly. I'm not sure what this is. So I mixed two colors together, and I didn't want it to be too bright. I wanted it to match the roses on the paper, so I used Kissing Booth, and I used Sandy Blonde. No, it wasn't Sandy Blonde, but it was a lighter color. And at the end, I didn't really like the way it looked, so I ended up just going over it with, you'll see in the end, with the Kissing Booth color, which made it pop even more. I didn't like the eyes on the bee here. Not that I didn't like it, I just didn't want it on this chair for this look. So I did go in and try to cover that up. So it's just the bee without the eyes. I thought it looked much better that way. everything's dry, it's time to seal everything completely. And again, I use Big Top for this. And that's it. It's pretty much done. See you in the next video.